The struggle for the English crown. 5 things you should learn about the Wars of the Roses. Wars of the Roses was a series of dynastic conflicts that took place in England during the mid to late 15th century. The war was fought between 2 rival houses, the House of Lancaster and the House of York, both claiming the throne of England. Join us now for this Liber-Tea episode detailing the various conflicts and the ultimate result. The conflict was named after the emblems used by the 2 houses, with the red rose representing the House of Lancaster and the white rose representing the House of York. The war lasted for over 3 decades and saw some of the bloodiest battles in English history. It eventually ended when Henry Tudor, Earl of Richmond, defeated Richard III at the Battle of Bossworth Field in 1485, ending the Plantagenet dynasty and establishing the Tudor dynasty. One of the key effects of the Wars of the Roses was the weakening of the power of the feudal nobility. Many of the most influential noble families in England were wiped out during the conflict, and their estates were often confiscated by the crown. This allowed the monarchy to consolidate its power and establish a more centralized government, which would be a crucial factor in the development of the Tudor state. The Tudor dynasty itself was a direct result of the Wars of the Roses. Henry Tudor's victory at the Battle of Bossworth Field brought an end to the Plantagenet dynasty and established his own family on the throne. The Tudors would go on to rule England for over a century, and their reign saw significant developments in areas such as art, literature, and exploration. StAlbans. The First Battle of StAlbans was a significant event in the history of England, as it marked the beginning of a series of conflicts known as the Wars of the Roses. The battle was fought between the forces of the House of Lancaster, led by King Henry VI, and the Yorks, who were led by Richard, Duke of York. Despite being outnumbered, the Yorkists emerged victorious, largely due to their clever tactics and superior weaponry. The capture of King Henry VI was a major turning point in the conflict, as it gave the Yorkists a significant advantage over their Lancastrian rivals. However, this victory was only temporary, and the 2 sides would continue to clash for many years to come. The Wars of the Roses would ultimately result in the establishment of the Tudor dynasty, but the legacy of these bloody conflicts would be felt for generations to come. The Battle of Barnett. Why is this one relevant? The significance is that the Yorkist victory at Barnett resulted in the death of Richard Neville, Earl of Warwick, a key Lancastrian supporter and military strategist. The battle also paved the way for Edward IV to regain the English throne and strengthen his hold on power. The Battle of Barnett is considered one of the most important battles of the Wars of the Roses. The outcome of the battle marked a turning point in the conflict, as it weakened the Lancastrian cause and consolidated Yorkist rule in England. In addition to its military significance, the Battle of Barnett also had political and social implications, as it led to the establishment of a more stable and centralized government under the Tudor dynasty. Battle of Dukesbury. This battle conflict led to the capture and subsequent execution of Prince Edward of Lancaster, weakening the Lancastrian cause and cementing the Yorkist hold on the English throne. The Battle of Dukesbury marked the end of the Lancastrian dynasty and the beginning of a period of stability under the Tudors. The battle was fought on May 4, 1471, and resulted in the death of many Lancastrian nobles, including Edward, Prince of Wales, who was only 17 years old at the time. His death was a devastating blow to his mother, Margaret of Anjou, who had been one of the driving forces behind the Lancastrian cause. With the death of Prince Edward, the Lancastrian claim to the throne was effectively extinguished, and the Yorkist king, King Edward IV, would rule England for another decade before his unexpected death in 1483. Despite the brutal nature of the conflict, the Battle of Dukesbury is remembered as a turning point in English history, marking the end of the Wars of the Roses and the beginning of a new era of political stability and prosperity. Battle of Bossworth Field. This final battle saw the victory of Henry Tudor, Henry VI, over Richard III, and ended the Plantagenet dynasty and established the Tudor dynasty. Henry Tudor's victory over Richard III at the Battle of Bossworth Field marked the end of a long and bloody period of conflict. The battle itself was fought on August 22, 1485, in Leicestershire, England. Richard III, who had usurped the throne from his young nephew, Henry V, led the Yorkist forces into battle. Meanwhile, Henry Tudor landed in Wales with a small force and marched to meet Richard on the battlefield. Despite being outnumbered, Henry's army was able to secure victory after a fierce and bloody fight. With Richard dead, Henry was crowned King Henry VII, and thus began the Tudor dynasty. The Battle of Bossworth Field is widely regarded as one of the most significant events in English history, marking the transition from the medieval to the early modern era. National identity. The Wars of the Roses was the emergence of a strong sense of national identity in England. The conflict had been fought largely between different factions of the English nobility, but it had also involved significant numbers of ordinary people. This helped to create a sense of shared experience and common purpose among the population, which would be an important factor in the growth of English nationalism in the centuries to come. The aftermath of the Wars of the Roses was a time of great upheaval and change in England. The Tudor dynasty, which emerged victorious from the conflict, was marked by a number of significant changes in the political, social, and cultural spheres of English life. Henry VII, the first Tudor monarch, was known for his shrewdness and pragmatism, and he worked tirelessly to strengthen the power and authority of the monarch. He also took steps to rebuild the country after the devastation of the wars, investing in infrastructure, trade, and industry to promote economic growth and prosperity. Overall, the Wars of the Roses were a hugely significant event in English history. Despite the violence and disruption they caused, they paved the way for the emergence of a stronger, more centralized monarchy and helped to shape the country's political, social, and cultural landscape for generations to come. Thank you for listening in on another fascinating historical global event with Liber-Tea. Please like, share, subscribe, and comment for more global historical details on the world around us.